Welcome, hotshots, to Flashlight by Firepower X. Here you can find the industrial strength tools you need to dominate your personal and professional wellness as a firefighter. My name is Jess, and it is my absolute pleasure to introduce today's special guest, Deputy Chief William Mosley. With 30 years in public safety, DC Mosley started in law enforcement and transitioned into the fire service. He's had the privilege to serve his departments in many capacities, including, but not limited to, health and wellness, DEI, union leadership, and executive management. And his goal at every stop is to be connected to the work and to make a positive impact. Welcome, Will. We're so glad to have you on the show today. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you, Jess, for having me. Really appreciate it. Look forward to our conversation.
Yes, yes. Now, I always like to start with people's origin stories, how they got into the fire service, but yours is very unique because you were a cop first. So tell us more about that, how you became a cop and then how you became a firefighter from there.
Wow, that's a great story. Let's go back to the cop part. I was in college playing basketball at a Division II school. And at the time, I had a young daughter. I was a scholarship athlete. And at the time, scholarship athletes weren't allowed to earn money. And now I'm looking at chasing my dreams on a basketball court versus real life responsibilities. And my best friend's father was a campus police officer at a nearby college. And he said, "Hey, we have a job opening. Would you be interested? I can't offer it to my son because of nepotism, but you're the next best thing." And I never even gave law enforcement a thought. But, looking at the two paths in front of me, I decided it was more responsible to get to work and provide for my family. So I started working as a police officer on a college campus. I spent a few years there. I wasn't really connected to the work until we had our first real incident. In Worcester at the time, there were a number of gangs,
Mhm.
and there was a gang initiation night where kids were showing up on college campuses and beating up or attacking random people.
Wow.
And they made their way to our campus and had right place, right time, right when it was happening. Me and my partner, we get out, we chase, I think it was three people. My partner catches the first one. And I'm
Mhm.
like, damn, because it was a lot of running. So I end up chasing the other two, and I don't know why they didn't decide to split up,
Uh-huh.
but they ran together and I chased them for about a mile and a half. I
Oh.
caught them. And that was one of the most, satisfying, gratifying feelings of being on the right side of something good. And I thought that was it. And so from that point, I pursued a track to municipal law enforcement. I ended
Mhm.
up working for the city that I live in. And I spent a lot of time there working in probably the busier parts of the city. Spent some time in a SWAT team. And to be quite honest, I think I just hit a really rough patch in my life personally.
Mhm.
Really couldn't make sense of it. I really couldn't put a pin on why I felt so withdrawn or unfulfilled or unhappy or restless. And I just started to think about doing other things in that weighing, like, oh, I have 10 years invested with the city. I have a pension. I have my time. I don't really want to give that up. How do I keep that? And it was only then that I ever considered being a firefighter,
Mhm.
ever. I ended up signing up for the civil service exam about 2 months before the age cutoff. I performed well enough. I got hired 2 years later. So I go through this, and it's a brand new experience to me. A lot of it's foreign. I know how to do work, but I'm
Mhm.
walking in here and I'm like, not really understanding that you have to know a lot about a lot in this
Mhm.
profession, but also recognizing how exciting the work is. So I make my full transition. I'm out on the street on the truck and I'm answering calls, and I would see people that recognize me from my police work. Hey, yo, you switched over. You're a firefighter now. I was like, yep,
Mhm.
yep. They're like, wow, you smile.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay. It kind of bothered me to hear that until I heard it a couple hundred times.
Wow, a couple hundred.
Yeah. And then that really started a journey for me to try to find out why that's the case. What's the connection there? What changed in me for things to outwardly be so visible to people I don't even know? So that's how I ended up in the fire service. I don't regret any of my work before that because I don't think it would have led me to this, to where I was. But if I did have the choice from the beginning, I would have just gone right there. If I knew everything that I've experienced to be true, I would have gone from day one.
Hmm. Why do you say that?
I feel the fire service in general has just given me a lot. It gave me a second chance. It gave me an opportunity to show up on any given day and any given call and
Hmm.
have a positive impact on someone's day. It gave me the opportunity to go into work and not be upset that I'm doing it, not rushing out the door as soon as my time is up. It gave me an opportunity to just have a variety of instances to be helpful. And it gave me peace. I think back to my friends who are still in law enforcement, and I didn't really know the weight I was carrying in that line of work day to day. And I didn't feel the weight lifted until I was away from it. Just the hypervigilance. A lot of times when you're encountering people, it's not always positive. Not everyone's happy to see you. You're
Yeah.
not always making someone's day better. So just carrying that weight and then being released from it was definitely eye-opening for me.
Hmm. Would you say it was more, I heard both, but the nature of the work or just a personality fit for you? Your personality was more leaning towards the work that firefighters do instead.
You know what? It's a little bit of both. I did enjoy the work. I had a good time. I just think I wasn't mature enough to process everything coming at me.
Hmm.
And then you kind of fall behind that. And that's what led to that feeling of restlessness or unfulfillment. It was
Hmm.
really, in hindsight, me not being able to process where I was or work through some of the micro traumas that come with that line of work. And
Hmm.
it took me years to figure that out.
Hmm. Well, the fire service is not immune to micro and macro traumas. So, since we're already heading there into mental health and well being for the fire service, because it sounds like you've done a lot of processing, Will. So, some of your thoughts on how we can get better at taking care of our mental health when we are in the fire service.
I think it's important to recognize that it should be a priority. I think when I started this career in public safety, and I think this applies to all first responders, people tell you that some things are going to stick with you, some things will haunt you. And as a young police officer looking at things and going to scenes, I was immature and I was like, oh, no, I saw such and such scene. I saw this incident. I'm fine. It doesn't affect me.
Hmm.
And years later, looking back, the reality of it for me was that I showed up with an empty cup,
Hmm.
right? And then each scene or incident or trauma filled my cup. But one day, something more benign happened, went into my cup, and there was an overflow.
Hmm.
And I didn't know why. I didn't understand how these things were showing up the way they were. And in hindsight, realizing that I had now a full cup
Hmm.
of unprocessed mental health that needed some attention. As I began to discover that, I was able to reset and prioritize mental health, whether it's through therapy, whether it's through communication, particularly at home. There are a lot of stories of people don't believe in taking work home. And I agree with that to a degree,
Hmm.
but I don't agree with closing out the people important to you. You
Hmm.
think you're protecting them, but I think you're actually hurting them. Imagine if someone you cared about decided to just shun you or shield you away from a significant part of their life, a third of their life. I want you to have anything to do with. I think it causes more problems than helping someone or protecting someone. I'm lucky I have a good partner in my wife, and we're very clear about this that there are times I need her. I need to not necessarily talk about gory details, but just talk about how I feel about something, how something affected me, and just regularly exercising that,
Hmm.
I think keeps me in a better mental state.
Hmm. Excellent. I've heard spousal support What other secret tools do you have in your mental health preventative care toolbox? I'm curious.
Like I said,
Yeah.
I do see a therapist once or twice a month for the last 6 years. And then I spend a lot of time just trying to learn about myself.
Okay, yeah.
I figure the more I can learn about myself, the better I can navigate the world around me. So understanding how things affect me or what affects me or why it affects me or does it need to affect me,
Yeah.
uh, things that letting go of things that I don't need to hold on to, whether they're positive or negative, really taking inventory of the awareness of life as it happens to me. It's been a real years long practice for me. I feel like I'm just starting, if I'm a yellow belt at it, I'd like to get better at it. But honestly, just not holding on to things to a point that they show up in a way I don't want.
Yeah, yeah. Introspection's one of my favorite tools too. So,
Yeah.
where's your favorite place to introspect? Are you like an exercise guy or getting out in nature?
I find myself doing that a lot in the gym.
Yeah.
I like to golf.
Oh,
And I feel like golf does have a lot of life lessons in it. And the biggest one I've taken from golf is it's important to be present. You don't think about the last shot or the next shot, you think about this shot. Just applying it to everyday life. I can't think about this success or failure that happened, or I can't think about anticipating this success or failure ahead of me. I got to think about what's in front of me.
years ago, I would have scoffed at that golf, but then, yeah, I dated someone who was really into it, and it's so true. Golf is such a present sport, and it's usually in a beautiful place. Golf courses are pretty places, which helps. And then when you get the yips to be able to let go of whatever is in my head right now. I had to let it go in order to move through the yips. So, yeah, I totally agree. I see what you're saying there. So, you're in a leadership position in your department. How do you instill this wisdom in the people you work with? How do you encourage them to take care of themselves?
I think the biggest thing I can do is share my experience without being imposing. The main thing I do, I try to model my expectations. If I expect my people to be on time, I'm going to be on time. If I expect them
Mhm.
to be prepared and competent, I'm going to be prepared and competent. If I expect them to the best degree possible to be mentally, emotionally available, then I've got to be that. Trying to connect with them personally just to understand what's going on with them and take advantage of those small opportunities. Sometimes someone will open up to you, like, hey, I'm having this problem here. And like, hey, I've been there
Mhm.
and I found this helpful personally. If you haven't tried it, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea. I think that's about what's most compatible with my personality. I don't like to be too pushy,
Mhm.
but be helpful at the same time.
Excellent. And you mentioned offline in our first conversation about front loading your relationships. Can you tell us a little bit more about that strategy that you use and why you do it?
Yeah, I think as a leader, front loading my relationships with the people I work with respect, trust, and value is important to me. It can't be transactional, but sincerely making that effort to connect with the people I work with that way, I think facilitates higher performance, better buy-in, particularly in the things that aren't popular, and then also just modeling my expectations, never asking them to do something that I'm not prepared to do myself really helps foster that relationship of trust and respect to go both ways. I'm going to give it first. I'm
Mhm.
going to give it heavy. I'm going to give it appropriately. And then I'm going to earn all of that from you.
Mhm.
And front loading it helps facilitate that for me.
Yeah, putting your own neck on the line first is definitely a great way to earn people's trust. Investment first. So, was that an easy lesson for you to learn as a leader, or were there some mistakes that happened that inspired this strategy?
No, I just took it from my own experience with leaders, people who led me. It's privileged to have some really good leaders and mentors, and I was privileged to have some not good leaders. You can learn just as much from them as well.
Mhm.
And then taking like my personal feeling and experience as their subordinate. There's a retired district chief now, Mike Conley. If he showed up right now and told me to run through a brick wall, I'd run through a brick wall.
Mhm.
He made an effort to connect with me.
Mhm.
He trusted me. He valued and respected my hard work. And he was a competent, calm leader.
Mhm.
So he left me wanting to do my best for him. And if I can do anything, if I can aspire to do anything, it's to get that feeling from the people that work with me.
That is a rare feeling to have. I think so many firefighters are so deeply disengaged. I don't know, is every leader capable of that, of living by example?
No, I mean, we're all different people. So, no, we're not. I do think recognizing your job as a leader is to support the people that work with you,
Yeah.
not to make them subservient to you. The weight of that responsibility, the decisions I make affect a bunch of people and their families. They are trusting that I am capable, confident, competent, clear with how I handle situations that involve them. And that's an awesome responsibility. And I think being a servant to the people you work with is probably the biggest key to being a strong leader.
Yeah. And how about reputation? What is its role in this bigger conversation of leadership? How do you balance the board and the community and the other folks on the same level as you? Where does reputation fit into that puzzle?
For me, that's been made in my time all the way up as a
Hmm.
company officer, as a union president, being active in other activities in the department. And I've tried really hard to do well at
Hmm.
each stop. And I feel like I have been productive. I have done well. I think that's part of the reputation. Also, your engagement with people along the way, I think is the other part. You can't be a jerk for 10 years and suddenly now you're an officer, you want to be Mr. Rogers. That won't fly. I've been lucky because I enjoy this space and this profession so much. I find it easy to get along. I think I'm firm and clear and where I stand with being prepared for work and how important the work is to me, how important the connections outside of work, those are equally important to me. And I'm not a person who really minces words. I don't, I'm not insensitive or I don't lack tact, but don't really leave much up for people to guess where I am. I think being clear, consistent, probably two of the more important things you can be as a leader because
Hmm.
people are looking for that. They're looking
Yeah.
for clarity, they're looking for consistency, competence, confidence,
Hmm.
coaching. And if I can provide that, I'm going to every step of the way.
Hmm. The grapevine can be pretty rough in the firehouse. What would you recommend for someone who maybe has gotten a little bit of a reputation and they do like their job and maybe it's been a little rough for them? Maybe they've gone astray with what others think of them. What would you tell that person
Uh,
if mentoring them to get back on track?
Almost everyone is redeemable.
Oh, uh-huh.
And you have to recognize that it's a process and it'll take time.
Hmm.
But if this is really a goal that you're connected to, then you should be connected to the process of getting there. So you have to realize, okay, I'm starting back here. And if you're committed to getting back to a point where your reputation is strong and people believe in your abilities and you're a welcome addition to any crew, then you put in the work. You put in the work for a good amount of time. You don't put it in as a transaction. You don't put it in for 2 weeks and say, oh, this is, because that shows you're not really committed to it. It's a hard road, but it's
Hmm.
worth it. And if you can buy into that, you can get there.
Hmm. How about continuing to educate ourselves and continuous learning? I would guess that's also a part of this big puzzle we're building too. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's pretty vital, especially if you want to see yourself in positions of authority or higher rank in a department to continue to educate yourself. School and just answering calls isn't going to do it. You have to invest in yourself through education. And the more you invest in yourself, the more value you bring to the organization, to your crew, to the citizens. And me personally, I think I had to count them because I had to sit for an interview for promotion. In my 15 years, I'm looking at 30 outside trainings at my own initiative and direction to get better at this job. That's actually a little bit of a tangent. We've been unfortunate in my time. There have been three line of duty deaths in our department.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of that drive to stay informed and educated is associated with never wanting to be in a situation where we lose anybody. Since the first one back in 2011, it's just been, you got to stay ahead. I have a thing where I don't ever want to show up to an incident and experience anything for the first time. I have reference through training, through experience, through someone else's experience that I can show up and nothing's unfamiliar to me. So I spend a lot of time in class, I spend a lot of time in books. Executive management, I have to take a step away from the hands-on training, but I have to ask my crews, hey, do you mind if I come watch? I want to stay on top of industry trends that I don't get a chance to experience at this level, but if you
Hmm.
don't mind, I'd love to come participate and observe in what you guys are doing so I can stay informed on the things that's happening on the ground. I
Hmm.
think that's very important to me. And I think it should be to any leader that wants to move up in an organization.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think that's the ideal situation. But you don't see a lot of folks at the top necessarily stopping by and participating in day-to-day stuff. Or do you? Other leaders are actually doing that?
I do. It's not across the board. I wish it were, but definitely a lot of engaged and dedicated leaders who take an interest in what their people are doing, what's done, receiving input. Because, like I said, at a certain point, you promote out of being hands-on, right? But you still have to make decisions about hands-on things. Just staying connected that way, I think, is helpful for everybody.
Mm-hmm. It's part of building a winning culture in the firehouse, when you say.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what other ways do we do that? Do we build a really awesome culture?
Well, when I first got promoted, I was like, hey, we have a great department. We have a lot of good officers and crews across all four groups. Someone's got to be the best. That's kind of where I am. And I hopefully the other groups have that same mentality. And all it does is make everyone better. And just being available for feedback, for coaching, I think is really important. I think there is an appetite from the people we work with to hear from our leaders, to pick their brain a little bit, to offer some of their knowledge that's more current than ours. So I think if we create that space where that's open and free flowing, I think that culture really takes hold and starts materializing the work we do.
Oh, yeah. What's the best vehicle for that kind of flow? Is it a suggestion box? Is it the kitchen table? What's the best way to get your folks to open up and share so that they feel more invested?
The kitchen table is always helpful, and that's more of a company station level thing. It's a little more tricky for a chief officer. First, we have to get through this thing where, when the deputy chief shows up, it's not, what did you do wrong? So a lot of FaceTime. I think anything official and administrative, I personally handle in a certain space. I don't handle it in the station. People see me in the station, that has nothing to do with it. So just like I said, putting a lot of effort into knowing about your people, walking in, being able to start some of those conversations. Hey, you just came back from parental leave. How's the baby? Everybody
Mhm.
healthy? How you doing? Great. Awesome. Hey, I'm sorry to hear about your mother passing. If you need anything, let me know. I
Mhm.
think connecting as a person first makes it easier for people to be willing to open up. about work. And when they provide that information, to be careful with it. Not careful as like secretive, but don't turn around and shut them down. Don't have an emotional reaction to it. You want to create the space where people are comfortable enough to share their information with you, even if it's something you don't agree with. It's important to be responsible with those interactions too.
Yeah, I've never heard it described in that way, but a safe landing for that information. The value of stoicism as a leader. Circling back to personal growth and personal development, because I know you've held a lot of different roles in the fire service, and I'm always curious, and I ask a lot of my guests, who is ultimately responsible? If I'm a firefighter, who is responsible for making sure that I keep learning and growing as a person? Is the onus on me, or does it help if administration mandates stuff or invests in me to go to conferences or whatever stuff that they do? I've heard really strong arguments from both sides. So I want to hear your opinion, Will. Whose job is it really to light the fire and keep it burning?
I think the primary responsibility is on the leadership to
Really
create the environment that promotes learning, preparedness, competence, confidence, right?
interesting. Okay.
And then the secondary responsibility is on the individual, their initiative, their desire to
Mhm.
show up, to commit, to be prepared, available, and reliable. They do. A lot of times, I feel it's easy for either side to point to the other as
Mhm.
well. You're not getting better because of you, and you're not getting better because you haven't created this environment. My position is it's the primary responsibility of the leadership to create the environment for people to be able to thrive.
Interesting. I'm a naturally really ambitious person, so I want to have that agency. If I want to go learn something, I invest in myself and go learn it. But I also do see the value of if you're the only one doing that and your department isn't supporting, it can get a little draining and tedious. I'm the only one that cares about my growth. That's interesting. I did not expect that answer. I really thought you were going to say it's individual first. Uh,
You said something interesting there. I don't think, to your point where the department doesn't care if I decide to invest in myself, I don't think
mhm.
that's a requirement for someone else to care for me to invest in myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, my original point stands.
I heard you say your three magic words there: prepared, available, reliable. Explain this mantra to us. Where did it come from? Why do you use it? And what does it mean?
So I had the opportunity to be a captain for two drill schools. And in teaching these young kids about the job and some of the skills that are required to do it well, it kind of evolved from there. And we
Mhm.
have a popular term in the fire service, personnel accountability report, where we keep track of people and resources. And I decided to take that and I spoke to them. I said, the three best things you can be when you walk in the door every day is prepared, available, and reliable. Prepared in having your gear, being ready, putting your stuff on a truck right away, knowing your skills.
Mhm.
Available, showing up, not abusing your time off, but showing up. And when
Mhm.
you show up mentally and emotionally available and ready to engage in the work that you're gonna potentially see. And reliable to the point that if anyone on your crew or your officer or your chief or a citizen asks you to do something, they can have confidence it's going to get done. If you do those things every day, you're going to have a fantastic career and you're going to have a fantastic impact on our department.
Mhm. Oh, that's so true. I was just thinking that the people who get really crusty and bitter and jaded, that they aren't available. That's the piece of that equation that they're missing. And that is something that we see in the fire
Yeah.
service. Do you use that mantra still outside of doing that drill school? Is that something you're still propagating at your department? Three words?
Particularly those group of kids for those two schools, I think like 50 or so, I'll ask them, hey, what are the three best things you could be in this job? And they're
Hmm?
like, we're available and liable. Every time I get to speak to a new recruit comes through, I tell them the same thing. Back to something you said earlier, just creating a winning culture. And I think things like that are part of it. Also, just revisiting your part about the training, creating an environment for people to thrive. I think that
Mhm.
helps create a winning culture. I think that's probably one of the things I want to impact the most in my time here is just creating that culture for high performance, success,
Mhm.
resilience, happiness, health, and wealth.
It's also a great mantra for leadership to be all those three things, right? And that it ties in well with that piece that you mentioned of being open to feedback, going and dropping in on trainings at your stations, even if you are the chief or the deputy chief or the district chief or the division chief, whatever chief you are, like being available. Good life advice too, right? So yeah, man, I think you figured it out as a secret to life there, Will. That's the
Patent
juice.
pending, patent pending.
I know. Start your speaking tour here. You better trademark it. So, but so let's weave in with the last few minutes we have family supports. How do family supports set us up to succeed? I know you mentioned your partner. What about the people that aren't married yet, or all of our single bucks out there? Who can they lean on?
I'll always lean on each other. That's kind of where it starts for people in our profession, parents, siblings, especially the generational firefighters who have family ahead of them that have come through. I think that's a invaluable resource to someone coming through the fire service. If you had a father, uncle, mother, relative come through the service, has already experienced just about everything you're going to. And probably they have a playbook on how they either handled it or wish they could have handled it better or better prepared themselves that they
Hmm.
would love to pass on to you. I've seen that firsthand, not through my own experience, but just with people who are in that situation. It's an invaluable benefit. Outside of that, yeah, each other, it definitely starts there, whether
Hmm.
it's around the kitchen table or on an apparatus floor or at an after action on a call. We're
Yeah.
always have each other.
Hmm. Yes. What other things have we touched on today that you think are really important for the fire service to hear?
I will say one of the things I really enjoyed, even though it was very hard work, was union leadership. I had the opportunity to serve as vice president and then president. And it felt like an opportunity to lead the department just from a different position. But it felt more that, as a union president, you're in the trenches with your people, the person out front on the fight. And not everything's a fight, but when it's time for a fight, to be able to bring one. And I really learned a lot about galvanizing cohesion and support from the rank and file of our union membership.
Mhm.
A lot of good lessons from that time that I can apply to my new leadership role side of the union. I thought it was very valuable and insightful, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
Can you share what a couple of those lessons are? I want to know more.
Um, Being a union leader, you're out front, you're exposed. You are the person that is supporting and representing everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
I feel a lot of that in my role in other leadership positions. You would think maybe not necessarily have to be the case, but as a deputy chief, I feel it's important to be out front of the people I work with,
Hmm.
supporting them and representing their interest to the next level
Hmm.
rather than how you might traditionally think of it like barking down. If I do my best to support the people I work with to do the best job they can, that's really the win. So that requires a lot of effort. That requires me being out front. That requires me representing their interests. That requires me doing everything I can in the background to make sure they're in a position to succeed. And ultimately, you meet the department's mission that way. I think that's a better way to meet the mission than to just look out there and say, I'm in charge. You need to do what I say.
Hmm. Yeah, and passing down a lot of micromanaging policies. Yeah.
And of course, there's an administrative component to the job. And thankfully, I have my reputation as a union leader to help soften the blow on some of those things because I feel I've shown up so strongly for them. I've built up some credibility that even on unpopular things that people I work with still show up for me.
Awesome. I would love to pick your brain more, but as we start to wrap the conversation up, I always like to leave our viewers with one tool or resource to extend their knowledge base. What would you recommend they check out?
A couple of years ago, I came across an article about the Leader's Bookshelf. And the article talked to high achieving people in military, government, and industry about what books along their journey that they felt were helpful in helping them achieve some of the things they've been able to achieve. And it boiled down to a list of roughly 50 books.
Mhm,
There are several different versions of this list.
mhm.
Most of the books overlap. There are some changes, but I decided to take that on as a project a few years ago. Recognize that I've read maybe a dozen of them already, and I'm about 30 books in. And one of my favorite is by Admiral William McRaven,
Mhm.
Wisdom of the Bullfrog. And he is the leader of SEAL Team 6 that led to the capture and killing of Osama bin Laden.
Mhm.
And he talks about some of the lessons he's learned in his career about leadership. It boils down to, I believe, 18 different points. And I've read it like 3 or 4 times. I'll probably read it 10 more. That's one of my favorites.
Of those 18 points, are there one or two that really stick out to you that you could pass on to us today?
So he took 18 popular sayings from his experience through all the special forces. And actually, I think I have a small list of it. All right, cool. So he kind of breaks down some of the like key mantras of some of the forces he's encountered or the people he's had the opportunity to work with in his career. And one of my favorites is who dares wins. So that was my
Yes.
favorite. I have a pretty competitive nature anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a little Machiavellian streak in me, and one of my favorite Machiavelli quotes is make mistakes of ambition and not of sloth. It's the same thing. It's amazing. I love it. I know. Feel big. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show with us today. Any closing thoughts?
No, I've really enjoyed the conversation just to be able to be a part of this platform and share a message of hope, admiration, love of the job,
Mhm,
really what it comes down to
mhm.
town me, love of the people that I work with. It's important to me and I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. I can feel your servant leadership. Well, it's just obvious when someone lives their truth. So thank you for that. Thank you for being one of those people in our industry. And thank you to our viewers as well. If you're still with us, we appreciate you. And as always, I will put the link to Will's resource today to the book, The Wisdom of the Bullfrog, in the show notes if you want to check that out. My door is open to you if you have any follow up after the show. If you want to reach out to somebody, have any questions or comments, email me at info@firepowerx.com. Otherwise, guys, we will see you in the next episode. Bye for now.